Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Tapaharine Sthapakaya Chadharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avataro Varishthayo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Jaranim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padapadme Tvayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. So, namaste everybody here and also online. So, welcome to our 9th class on Karma Yoga. And today's topic, we're going to continue in the second half of chapter 6 of Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. So, if you have the text, you can please take it out. And today's talk, along the theme of what Swamiji mentions, it discusses, I feel, one of the greatest challenges in spiritual life. What is that? How do we love without attachment? How many of you here and online, how many of you have heard about this? We hear that expression, love without attachment, right? Ramakrishna taught, it's in the Katamrita. In Bangla, I'll say it in English, Keo nijer noy. Nobody is my own. E jogote keo nijer noy. Keo apnar lok noy. Nobody in this world is my own. This is what Ramakrishna said. Yet Holy Mother, what did she say? One of her last advices, Jagat ke apon kore niti sheko. Learn to make the entire world your own. Apon kore. Apon in Bengali means own. The whole world is your own. Keo por noy. Por means other. Nobody is a stranger. Jagat apnar. So this world is, everybody is your own. So on its face, this looks like an apparent contradiction. On the one hand, Mother Thakur is saying this line that, that nobody in this world is your own. And on the other hand, Holy Mother is saying, if you want peace of mind, then don't find the faults of others, and nobody is a stranger, everybody is your own. To support, so which side will we take? Is there a contradiction between Ramakrishna and Holy Mother? How do we reconcile this contradiction? You know, Ram Prasad, he's in a very famous line, a great poet of West Bengal. He sang on the Mother Kali, Bhebe dak mon ke o karon noy, miche brahma bhu mondole, bhulona dokkhina kali, bodho hoye maya jale. So he said, don't you see, nobody in this world is your own. Don't get caught in this trap of Maya. Don't forget your divine nature. Don't forget Mother Kali. So today we're going to do a deep dive into this apparent contradiction. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, this is only for householders. No, you know who faced this struggle? Swami Vivekananda. I think it was 1884 his father passed away. So after that, he's the eldest child in his family. He has his old widowed mother, his younger brothers. The responsibility is upon him. In fact, you know, there's a school right near here. It's off of Creek Road. It's the Metropolitan Institute. There Swamiji used to be a headmaster. And that he was so successful as a headmaster that one of the relatives, the descendants of Vidyasagar, whose school it was, became jealous. So not only he had Swamiji thrown out, but he blackballed Swamiji and made sure that he could not get another job. So sometimes when I walk down what's today Bidan Sharani, you have the ancestral home, and just thinking about that street, thinking about this metropolitan school, thinking about that tension Swamiji faced, walking up and down, looking for work. And at the same time, he had that monastic aspiration. So anything Swamiji is saying upon this is coming from his own, what we say in the Yoga Sutras, pratyaksha, first-hand experience, not theoretical. Not only for Swamiji, even in our other monastics. I just met a monk right now. He came from the USA. He's a brilliant monk, a PhD in particle physics. His mother became quadriplegic about 15 years ago. He was staying in the ashram nicely. But what to do? He's the only child. His mother's become quadriplegic. His father is not there. So, by Thakur's grace, he got special permission. He lived in another ashram, looking after his mother there. But he himself said, he just told me this last week, I can foresee what's going to happen. Right now, I love being in this monastery. I'm going to leave this monastery. I'm going to serve my mother. And because she's dependent upon me, after some time, I'm going to become attached to her. After some time, she's going to pass away, and then I'm going to feel really bad. And this is what happened. He just told me his mother just passed away recently. He came to India. So he's telling me this. I even face this. My own father, he has Lewy body dementia. He's 89 years old. So, unattached love, what does that mean? How do we cultivate it? So we're going to look at the text of Swamiji, but even before that, let me just raise one point, an important point to remember. Sometimes I feel that we're misinformed, or a lot of times our understanding of this concept is misinformed. A lot of times we talk about unattached love means what? Don't be attached. Is that not right? Don't be attached. A jagat shopno moto. From the Advaitic point of view, this world is nothing but a dream. Don't be attached. Okay? That's what we normally hear. Yet, if we look for who our ideals are, especially as devotees of this order, who are our ideals, if I ask that question? Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda. So, one thing you'll see in them, and it's something that gets missed, in order to practice unattached love, you first have to have what we call the faculty of feeling fully cultivated, fully developed. And then only from that fully developed faculty of feeling, then we can practice unattached love. Is that clear? We're going to do a deep dive. What does that mean? So let's just now share the text of, 1 second. Okay, we're in chapter 6, the second half. So let's leave off where we left off before. So, therefore, Karma Yoga teaches, do not give up the world. Live in the world. Imbibe its influences as much as you can. But if it be for your own enjoyment's sake, work not at all. Enjoyment should not be the goal. First kill yourself, and then take the whole world as yourself. As the old Christians used to say, the old man must die. Let's just stop there for a moment. When Swamiji says, do not give up the world, live in the world, but if it be for your own enjoyment's sake, work not at all. Swamiji says that here, but I would Swamiji says in another place that even if you have desires to enjoy, plunge into work. And what happens as you plunge into work? Experience the blows of life, which we all very know. And through these blows of life, repeated blows, what happens? Wisdom. Now, enjoyment, Swamiji continues, first kill yourself and then take the whole world as yourself. As the old Christians used to say, the old man must die. What is this old man? This old man is a selfish idea that the whole world is made for our enjoyment. Foolish parents teach their children to pray, "O Lord, thou hast created this sun for me and this moon for me." Now, I just want to step back a little bit. Remember what I said before? Who was Swami Vivekananda's audience here? It was the 19th century, 1895, New York. It was Christians, Darwinist. So, what Swamiji is doing here, he's criticizing a broader anthropomorphic centric worldview. That means human-centered view that existed in many cultures, including Christianity. Let me give some passages to support this. Genesis 1:2-6, which is from the Old Testament. In that it says, let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heaven, and over the livestock, and over all the earth. So you see that, what is that point of view saying? Let man rule and enjoy this world. Another one is Genesis 1.28. Again, the Old Testament. That says, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion. Again, the word dominion. It's interesting because it's this very concept that you could say that Christians and others invading into other countries, it's for this reason, that you have a right for dominion over the earth. It's called survival of the fittest. That was, besides the Christians, it was also a critique of a school called social Darwinism. Who here has heard of social Darwinism? It's this idea of survival of the fittest. Their reasoning is that stronger races deserve to dominate. Competition is natural. Weaker people perish. Nature exists for human success. Swamiji would strongly oppose this. And so, Swamiji, then you could just see he's giving this lecture, and right below he has some sarcasm. You can see his sense of humor. He says, a tiger may say, man was created for me, and pray, O Lord, how wicked are these men who do not come and place themselves before me to be eaten. They are breaking your law. So Swamiji then, he provides the insight. This is the insight that takes many years to understand. If the world is created for us, we are also created for the world. That this world is created for our enjoyment is the most wicked idea that holds us down. The world is not for our sake. Millions pass out of it every year. The world does not feel it. Millions of others are supplied in their place. So now, Swamiji is saying this is an absolute fact. The world is coming, the world is going. How many of you here have lost a close one in the past year? Now, Swamiji now gives the insight. Just as much as the world is for us, so we also are for the world. To work properly, therefore, you have to give up the idea of attachment. So this is the basic rule number 1. Give up the idea of attachment. But you know what's implied in that? He's not saying don't be attached. He's saying give up the idea of attachment. So sometimes I see, what we misinterpret this and we say, okay, I'm not going to be attached. No. What would Swamiji say to that? A wall, this pillar, these are inanimate objects. They don't feel. Don't be like that. So the idea here is what we talked about last time. We have to work through this attachment, not just give it up in the beginning. Is that clear? And I think that what Swamiji is saying is that by engaging in the work, by working with the idea of attachment, like say a parent to the child, will a parent just say, let me be detached from the child? No, he works, and through that attachment to that child, he is able to, first is something personal, right? This possession it becomes possessive. This love is possessive. It's like aham mama, I and mine. So this love is directed towards you. If you have a grandchild, a daughter, a child, it's directed towards that one person. What Swamiji is saying is taking that idea of that small selfish love, which would be like one lantern in a room, taking that and slowly through the blows of life, it doesn't mean getting rid of it, it means expanding it. So it becomes, rather than like a lantern in a small room, a dark room, we should become more like the sun, which lights up the entire universe. What this bodhisattva ideal is, which is that every human being is like our child. So Swamiji is saying that transition from kacha ami to pakka ami, from the unripe ego, which is selfishness, to the ripe ego. Okay, is that clear? So that is, don't just, and how does that come about? That comes about through plunging in, not through staying away. They have a funny joke in some of our monasteries in the West. They don't say Advaita Vedanta, they say Avoidya Vedanta. Avoid means avoiding. Avoiding work. Avoiding things. So Swamiji uses, so he says, to work properly, therefore, you have to give up the idea of attachment. Second, do not mix in the fray and hold yourself as a witness and go on working. My master used to say, look upon your children as a nurse does. The nurse will take your baby and fondle it and play with it and behave towards it as gently as if it were her own child. But as soon as you give her notice to quit, she is ready to start off bag and baggage from the house. Everything in the shape of attachment is forgotten. It will not give the ordinary nurse the least pang to leave your children and take up other children. Even so, you are to be with all that you consider your own. Okay. Now, with that idea in mind, so what is Swamiji saying here? Here he's also mentioning another idea, and that is this. This idea of a nurse looking after the children could be misinterpreted. The nurse that is able to look after the children, leave it, and go somewhere else, that is what? That is basically this, that's skill in action, that's efficiency. But that may not necessarily be love. Right? A nurse can come, it can serve you very well, maybe better than your own parents could serve you, more because they're trained in that field. But it can't give what? That love. So, when Swamiji says, live in the world like a maid servant in a wealthy man's house, the maid servant brings up her master's children, and calling them my Hari, my Ram, yet inwardly she knows they are not my own. So what do we do with this then? So the question now is, so should we not love? Should I not be attached to my children, my parents, my spouse, my friends? What does Vedanta tell you? Should I or should I not be? What do you think? What was that? You should be. But Swamiji is saying here, work like the maid servant. Yes. So the idea is this love, we have to, again, going back to it, even in the idea of Karma Yoga, we have to cultivate this feeling of faculty. Feeling faculty. You understand what I'm saying? When we become a spiritual aspirant, sometimes what may happen is if we get too much into philosophy, our heart may dry up. We stop. Maybe I sometimes might do this. Okay, this world is unreal. Let me just deal with let me stay away. No. So Swamiji is saying this faculty of feeling, this faculty to love, is something that has to go through a process of maturation. And Karma Yoga is the vehicle to engage in this process of maturation. So the answer is, you're not asked to love less. Not asking to love less. What are we asking? To possess less. The idea of possession. So when Thakur says, nobody is one's own, Keo nijer noi, at first that sounds cold, very heartless, indifferent. But what is he really attacking? He's attacking not love, not this bhalabasha. We see everyone who met Ramakrishna, they always felt that he loves me the most. His disciples, his relatives, everyone who met him felt, oh, he loves me the most. And not only that, Ramakrishna, even though he took sannyasa, he served his mother till the end. His mother lived in the Nahabat, in Dakshineshwar. So he's saying, no, just give up that idea of mamata, mindness, possessiveness, dependence, the illusion that another person belongs to me. Now let's read the next passage of Swamiji, what he says. So Swamiji addresses that here. The greatest weakness often insinuates itself as the greatest good and strength. It is a weakness to think that anyone is dependent on me and that I can do good to another. This belief is the mother of all our attachment, and through this attachment comes all our pain. How many of you are fathers or mothers here, especially fathers? Okay, and mothers or grandmothers, and even the audience too? So I raise this question to all of you, online and here. Is what Swamiji is saying, is this, in your personal experience, is this true? Do we have that attachment that my child will not survive without me? Do we have that? You're nodding your head, yes. Okay. Good. We must, so Swamiji is pushing back against that. We must inform our minds that no one in this universe depends upon us. Not one beggar depends on our charity. Not one soul on our kindness. Not one living thing on our help. All are helped on by nature, and will be so helped even through though millions of us were not here. The course of nature will not stop for such as you and me. It is already pointed out, only a blessed privilege to you and to me that we are allowed in the way of helping others to educate ourselves. So do you understand? Swamiji here is not saying don't be attached. What he's talking about and what he's emphasizing is this process of maturation of this selfishness to unselfishness. Selfish love to unselfish, enlightened love. Now, this doesn't mean that all of you now, you should not have this attitude now. If you're raising your children now, it might be confusing. Okay, should I not think that, then let my children fend for themselves? No. Yeah, you know what this is? Like my father, he's now 89, so probably more than 60 years, just until recently, he was the main supporter, the main bread earner for our family before I joined and whatever. So he worked, he acted as if everything depended upon him. That had a purpose. Without that, we would not have been able to come up. We see the opposite of that. In this country, and especially in America, I would say we see that so many families, they don't have, the parents don't love their children. That attachment would actually be a good thing rather than a bad thing. You understand? Attachment first has to be there. Otherwise, that's like animal love. Animals, how do they raise their children? You could see that when an animal is born, say the dolphin or a dog, for example. A dog has these puppies. Then first couple of months, it takes care of them. But then after some time, it no longer recognizes them, or it no longer sees them as one's own child. This is this animal instinct, biological instinct. So the difference between that and human love is what? From animal love to human love, so we have this attachment towards our family, this lifelong attachment. Do you understand the progression? This is a progression from animal love, which only lasts for a few days. This human love is something of progression, that we recognize that this is my child. I see myself in that child, that complete identity. So stage 1 is this animal love. Stage 2 is this human love. And then through this process of stage 2, as we get older, as we've done our best, we've given our children in marriage, we've taken care of them to our utmost, as we're coming towards the end of our life, stage 3, this insight comes. Nobody actually depends upon me. Is that right? That stage 3 then means the stage of detachment. Now, I'm not saying you might push back, so you might say, Swamiji, are you saying we have to wait till our end of our life to practice this? No, we should know this whole model right now. And even as we're attached to our children, we should practice that, but as Ramakrishna mentioned, always keeping in the back of our minds, nobody is my own. In the back of our mind somewhere. What are we doing then? We have to start that process as soon as possible. That's like a big, tiny seed. But as we live life, as we go through the blows of life, slowly, what happens is, if we keep that in the back of our mind, remember Thakur said that, Ma ki bolen, that keep that Advaita Vedanta, Anchule, like tied in a corner of the cloth. What's the expression in Bengali? Anchule badiye koro. So keep that as keep that Advaitic Vedantic reasoning. Keep that somewhere there. And then when the blows of life come, say we lose a job, say somebody betrays us. How many of that has happened to us? That we love somebody so much, a friend, somebody, they don't reciprocate. We get that blow from the world. We feel so bad. We do so much, and yet we don't receive in return. At that time, this Vedantic reasoning will be our best friend. This Vedantic reasoning doesn't come in a day. We can't wait till we are old to practice it. It's something that we have to keep cultivating slow. You know who that happened to? Remember Vidyasagar, the great humanitarian during Ramakrishna's time? He did so much in terms of unselfish service, and nobody received so much ingratitude like he did. Near the end of his life, I read that he lost faith in humanity to some extent. And later on, he became so pessimistic that if anybody criticized him, Vidyasagar's reply would be, "What did I do? Maybe I did some service to them. That's why they're criticizing me." So that type of critique he took. So this is the main thing we're emphasizing again and again, this process of cultivating work with attachment, and keep that Vedantic reasoning tied to the corner of the cloth and go on loving, being attached. And slowly as we get our blows, what happens is that we don't become indifferent to the world, but rather that at first we become indifferent, but slowly that love, what Swami Thakur is mentioning, Ramakrishna and Swamiji mentioning, it slowly expands. This is what we mean by unattached love. You understand the difference between selfish love and unattached love. Selfish love, I love this person, but if they don't reciprocate, I love my child, but if my child does not listen to what I say, I get so angry. I love my subordinates, but if they don't listen to me, I feel like a blow from within. So learning to cut the selfishness and slowly expand ourselves. So Swamiji continues, this is a great lesson to learn in life, and when we have learned it fully, we shall never be unhappy. We can go and mix without harm in society anywhere and everywhere. So what a wonderful, if we really learn that lesson in life, which is so difficult. You know who it's most difficult for? Those who do actual service in society. Counselors, doctors, nurses, spiritual chaplains. When I was in Harvard, I took many classes in chaplaincy. It's called spiritual compassionate care. And you know that one of the main causes of, it's called burnout in these professions. It's called burnout fatigue. I met my professor, Chris Berlin, he experienced this, that they try to put themselves, they try to love everybody, they try to serve everybody to the best of their ability, but they didn't feel like they were not receiving that gratitude. Rather than that, they're absorbing all the negativity. When you're counseling somebody, you know what's happening? You're receiving a lot of the negative energy, right? Unless you have the power of detachment, what's going to happen? Say I'm counseling somebody and I hear all their problems. They speak for me for 1 hour. All the sufferings they're going on in life. So I'm not like this wall back there. If I hear something, it will definitely affect any of us. So what's going to happen afterwards? If I have not sufficiently cultivated this power of viveka, discrimination, detachment, I'm going to take those thoughts, everything that they've told me, I'm going to take it to my home. It's going to go with me to my sleep. Maybe that day I won't be able to sleep even. Okay? Idea is we need to cultivate this power of detachment to be able to love, to be able to serve in society. Holy Mother. You know, in Holy Mother, if you read her life, that so many people would come to her with their difficulties. Now, when Mother would listen, many of the devotees would say that as they're telling, like one lady, she lost her daughter. She's going to Mother the next day and saying, "Ma, ito holo, this has happened." So mother is listening with such intensity, such empathy, that she herself starts crying. And the person who's crying is like looking at Ma. She's looking at the tears coming from mothers. And that person is feeling relieved. As if mother took that from her. But then when the person leaves, is mother still thinking about that? No. The power of attachment, as Swamiji says, attaching fully, but combined with what? The power of anashakti, detachment. Very, very important to cultivate this if we are to learn to love properly, if we are to learn to serve properly. Now, Swamiji then continues. Let's just go down to what he says below. So he says now below, I'm just jumping down, when you give something to a man and expect nothing, do not even expect the man to be grateful. His ingratitude will not tell upon you, because you never expected anything, never thought you had any right to anything in the way of return. You gave him what he deserved. His own karma got it for him. Your karma made you the carrier thereof. Why should you be proud of having given away something? So, I think that this is one of the most difficult things, if we're being honest, that we all expect, even if I say, thank you so much, you should say you're welcome. Or if we do something, some acknowledgement of gratitude. We expect that as human beings. Edward Desai, he talked about that as one factor in doing meaningful work. One factor in doing any meaningful work is this connection. What makes work meaningful? I mentioned this before. There's 3 factors. This is called intrinsic motivation theory. There's 3 factors that make work meaningful. It's called self-determination theory as well. First factor is skillfulness, that we're competent in our work. So if we're a doctor, if we're a nurse, whatever work we're doing, before even the Shiva aspect, we should be what? Competent. Say that I love to dress the wounds of other people in the hospital, but if I'm not competent doing it, that does not create meaningful work. Second factor is this idea of connection. We find this connection that when we do something, connection with the person that we're serving. Okay? Now that doesn't happen all the time in work. You talk to doctors, nurses, counselors, anybody, any person who tries to be a Karma Yogi even. You find often that if you go out to a hospital, you're giving free medicine. I saw this in our Vrindavan hospital in Ramakrishna in Vrindavan. If you give something free, or if you're giving it at a much discounted price, people's expectation does not become less, it becomes much more. So this is the idea. That idea of expecting gratitude from another person, this is the most difficult thing to get rid of, but this is the true Karma Yogi. Very difficult. So Swamiji is talking about this attitude, cultivating this attitude. Why should you be proud of having given something? You are the porter that carried the money or other kind of gift, and the world deserved it by its own karma. Where then is the reason for pride in you? There is nothing very great in what you give to the world. Now, many have said this. My guru said this as well. We don't feel so bad if when we give something, if they don't say anything at all, we don't feel so bad. But when they criticize us afterwards, that hurts. That feels like a betrayal. How many of you have felt that, experienced that here or online? It's a betrayal you feel. You feel really bad. And you lose the incentive then to do work, to do further service. You feel like just cutting yourself off. So Swamiji is saying, go beyond what Edward Desai talked about as meaningful work. Go beyond the idea of connection. You're not connecting with that human being there. You're connecting with what? That divine in that soul. And I think this is what, when we say Shiva Gyani Jiva Sheva, knowing oneself as Shiva, first knowing oneself as Shiva, serve that Shiva, serve that Lord in the other person. I'm not serving that other person. I'm not serving that name and form. I'm not serving this person. No, I'm serving God in you. And by doing that, what happens? If we're serving that other person, and we're expecting that gratitude, what happens to our mind, our heart, our faculty of feeling, thinking? It becomes, I think, banga sankoch, it becomes contracted. But when we do that with the feeling that I'm serving this God in this person, then it becomes, in Bengali, udarata, this expanded, liberal, broad-minded. The heart expands. This is our spiritual practice. It does not come in a day. We're all struggling with this. But at the same time, Swamiji is saying, we have to know what true karma yoga is. We've never really explored this. That's the problem. We think that, let me be unattached. But what does that mean? Unattached love means what? What have we talked about today? Does it mean being like the wall? Let me not get involved. Let me think this world is illusion. Let me think this world is a dream. No, it's the opposite of that. In fact, if you have that type of attitude, if you don't love anybody, if you don't care for anybody, then what happens then? If you have a faculty of feeling is just like the faculty of thinking, feeling, willing, doing. These are all separate faculties. These faculties are what distinguish human beings from AI, other objects. These 4 faculties. What happens if we don't consciously try to cultivate these faculties? They die off. This is why sometimes you see people who are very cognitive. There's great scientists, great philosophers. They're cognitive. They see everything through the world of intellect. But they don't have this, the heart. In psychology, they call this affectative. Cognitive is the faculty of thinking. Affectative is the feeling faculty. This is why Swamiji, he saw this. He saw this again and again, this defect. In fact, especially you would probably say in a place like India, where we're philosophically so much richer than any other place, he felt it's necessary, not just the head, a simultaneous cultivation of the 3 H's. What are the 3 H's? Head, hand, and hridoy, heart. I'm also Bengali, right? Heart, hridoy. But I don't think the cognitive faculty begins with the H. Mata, I don't know. So this is what Swamiji is emphasizing again and again and again and again. This idea that in any of these yogas, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, you bring in all the different yogas. Bring in this faculty of discrimination, keep it there. Go through the experiences of suffering. But what happens in Karma Yoga? We bring this process of viveka, and then when we get the blow, we don't claim victimhood. You know what victimhood is? Oh, hey, look, he did this to me. That person did that to me. We keep crying. We keep blaming others. You can't have both. You cannot have both victimhood and also apply discrimination towards oneself. What's called in Sanskrit swadhyaya. One definition of Sanskrit swadhyaya is self-reflection. It's only through this process of self-reflection that we learn these lessons of life. Otherwise, these blows will keep coming again and again and again and again in different forms. One sadhu told me this. One of the most difficult things is what? To learn the lessons of life. The world is always trying to teach us, but we don't learn. So it's like, I go, I hit my head against the wall, so I come back, I keep hitting again and again and again and again. It becomes like an endless loop that I cannot get out of. So we don't get, they say you should have sense knocked into you, an English expression. We should have sense knocked into us. That sense means what? This awakened viveka, this awakened buddhi. This is not a small matter. It only takes place in the lives of the greatest of spiritual aspirants. Sometimes we also have it's these misconceptions that we have that sometimes do not allow us to look at karma yoga as a means and not as an end. What do I mean by that? We think that if we think of a great soul, we forget their human aspect. We think that they never got angry, that they never struggled with their passions, that they were human. They never were jealous. So let me push back on that. How many of you have heard of Bhairavi Brahmani, the tantric teacher, guru of Sri Ramakrishna? So she was an exalted soul. And she loved Thakur Ramakrishna very much. She looked at him like her own child. She taught him, she educated him on the 64 tantric disciplines, and she was probably the first to hail him as an incarnation. In Dakshineshwar, in the Nat Mandir of Dakshineshwar, she held a conference there, and she invited the greatest scholars, and she wanted to argue her point. This was in early 1860s, before Ramakrishna was then thought of maybe as a pagla Paramahansa, like a crazy Paramahansa. At that time, she was trying to argue, per the scriptures, that he was an incarnation. This Bhairavi Brahmani, I think it was about 1867, she went with Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and his relatives. They all went to Kamarpukur. There, Ramakrishna was giving more time to his young wife, Holy Mother, because his duty as a husband is to educate her. See, Ramakrishna, even in spite of being a sannyasin, he never neglected his duty to his wife. This is also this Karma Yoga. He did it in an unattached way. But Bhairavi Brahmani misunderstood this. She thought, no, you're a sannyasin. You should not be attached to your wife. She did not understand that concept maybe of Karma Yoga. Secondly, she herself saw that there was some jealousy there. So you know what? Swami Chidekananda in the Leela Prasanga, great master, you know what he wrote of Bhairavi Brahmani? Due to her innumerable tapasya that she engaged in her entire life, she was able to recognize her own fault. And what did she do? Then she left Kamarpukur and went to Kashi and retired in Kashi. So this idea that we sometimes think for a great soul, the great soul is having these visions, this achievement. No, one other lakshana, one other characteristic, being able to recognize, practice self-reflection, being able to recognize, apply this Vedantic discrimination towards our own traits. Is that clear? So Swamiji then, I'm just going to sum up now. So what is the methodology for what we've talked about in Karma Yoga today? What is the methodology? So Swamiji mentions this in the next line. Each of them, all these different yogas, meaning Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, each of them leads us to the same goal and makes us perfect. Only each has to be strenuously practiced. Is that clear? What we've talked about today, this idea of working with attachment, getting the blows, then with this viveka, analyzing the blows, then self-reflection, then further modification. This has to be strenuously practiced. The whole secret is in practicing. First you have to hear what should we say shravana, then think manana, and then practice. So you can say nididhyasana according to Vedanta, or we can say abhyasa. The main thing is the practice. This is where we all sometimes fall short. We think that it's enough just to hear and cogitate. No, it has to first be heard, assimilated in the heart, and then finally manifested in hand in terms of practical karma yoga, in what they say in Bengali, babaharika, our babahar, in our behavior, in our babaharika buddhi, in our common sense. It has to be manifested. Then Swamiji says, and many things which you do not understand will be made clear to you by constant hearing and thinking. Constant hearing and thinking means what? Constant self-reflection. And then what will happen if you engage with this process that we've talked about today, this constant self-reflection, engaging in work, afterwards analyzing? What is the fruit that will happen if we engage in this sincerely? Swamiji continues, first it is feeling, then it becomes willing, and out of that willing comes the tremendous force for work that will go through every vein and nerve and muscle until the whole mass of your body is changed into an instrument of the unselfish yoga of work, and the desired result of perfect self-abnegation and utter unselfishness is duly attained. This is the fruit of what we will get. Perfect self-abnegation, meaning that ego, we can't find it, and this utter unselfishness. And Swamiji says, if we are genuine karma yogis and wish to train ourselves to that state, wherever we may begin, we are sure to end in perfect self-abnegation. And as soon as the seeming self has gone, the whole world, which at first appears to us to be filled with evil, will appear to be heaven itself and full of blessedness. I've seen many, especially amongst our sadhus, sometimes, not that they were mean, but I've seen some sadhus, when they were, say, general secretary, they ruled with an iron fist, so we would be afraid of coming near them. You would see them, and then suddenly, when people were in their position of power, you would get scared. Afterwards, when these same sadhus, when they become vice president and then some of them president, then you see, aage mone shokto, it was hard. Tarpore ki holo, then they become like noram. They become very soft, broad, and they become like the very embodiment of love. Like prem shuru, like they become like this golab jam, like a dark golab jam. So it becomes like full of bliss, full of sweetness. So you like to be near them. That type of person, you like to come close to them and just be in their presence. So this is our whole state in conclusion, that let us all strive for that. Let's all see this as a state of maturation, and wherever we are, just keep striving to strive for that state of self-abnegation, for unselfishness, and slowly to expand ourselves and to see that God in all. Thank you. So let me close now, and then we'll take some question and answer if anyone has any questions. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat.